As we were mentioning, a midday debate is getting underway today in Liberty Village. Let's listen in live.
And Brad Bradford is the councillor for Beaches East York and the new father of a second daughter, Bronwyn, born on Monday. Congratulations. Welcome to you all, and let's get right into it with our only timed rapid-fire questions. First, in 30 seconds or less, I would like a single sentence from each of you telling us what your top priority is. I'll call you, starting with Anthony Furey.
Yeah, thanks, Libby. I'm going to phase out the drug injection sites, replace them with treatment centers, because everyone's telling me that the City of Toronto can't go one step further to being like Seattle, San Francisco, Vancouver, all those awful scenes we see. We're a compassionate society. We got to help those people, but we can't let our standards slip anymore in our beautiful city.
Chloe Brown.
My biggest issue is bringing down the cost of living on a variety of services and goods. When we look at the City of Toronto, it has a lot of public lands that could be working for the working class, whether that's commercial urban farms, residential apartments, and it's only a matter of the mayor signing over the legal title to communities. The government should be acting as a facilitator of our public trust fund instead of kid with a venture capitalist fund. We need to have democracy for the working class, and that requires giving them the land, data, and resources.
Mark Saunders.
Great, and thank you for having us here today. The number one issue is public safety. When we look at our city and we look at certain parts of our city, we see the decay. As mayor, I will make sure that the government's primary responsibility is to keep our communities safe. If we have a safe community, we have a healthy community. If we have a healthy community, it's vibrant, it's vital. It makes Toronto, Toronto again, and making sure that we reinforce those abilities will keep our city safe.
Olivia Chow.
Libby, a lot of people are having a hard time making it because life is so unaffordable. So my top priority is really building housing. 25,000 units of rental building, because 30,000 seniors are waiting for affordable housing. So let's build so that people don't have to worry about having a very unaffordable life.
Anna Bilau.
Affordability is my priority. That's why, as mayor, I'll be focused on fixing services like the TTC, so I can make sure that they get to work on time, they can pick up their kids on time, they don't have to pay the extra fees, making sure that our city services are working to make people's lives easier and more affordable. Also by building housing to make sure that our workers, our youth, and our seniors can continue in our city, and bringing healthcare services to the doors of thousands of seniors in our city. Making life easier and more affordable is my priority.
Josh Matlow.
It starts by fixing our budget. We have a massive budget shortfall. We've got huge budget pressures, and I'm determined to make our city more affordable, to address housing affordability, making our city safer, including improving our TTC, and ensuring that our services that have been declining have a chance to actually keep up and actually support the people that rely on them every single day. I want to fix our city, I want to make it work, and we can't do that if our budget is facing the shortfall and the pressures that it does today.
Brad Bradford.
Well, you asked the question, number one priority, it's affordability. It's cost of living, and when you think of the biggest bill that most folks face each month, it's the rent or it's the mortgage. You know, today the Bank of Canada came out and announced another interest rate hike, and that is going to put pressure on people when it comes to paying their bills. So as an urban planner and someone who has a track record with building housing here in the city, I'm going to make sure that whether you're a senior, a new Canadian, or a young family, you have an affordable place to call home here in Toronto.
Mitzi.
Well, Libby, the city that we want is where young people who grow up here can afford to actually live in our city. So I will be fixing housing, making sure we build more affordable housing for the people who need it in our city. Also fixing things like transit, making it free for seniors who will ride free on transit, getting that ridership up. In Toronto, we want a city that works for everyone, everywhere in our city, a livable city, and I will fix that.
Okay, I've heard a lot about your plans to make the city a better place. That takes money. And first, we have $1 billion deficit we legally have to pay. Now, I've heard most of you claim that you will be the one to get the money from Doug Ford while he remains unmoved. So again, in 30 seconds or less, please tell me, where that money will come from, starting with Mitzi Hunter.
Absolutely. So I have a 3 and 6 plan to make sure that we can afford the 6 priorities that I'm putting forward to fix the 6, and that's a 6% property tax increase in line with the current council at 5.5%. But I know affordability is a challenge, so those with a household income of $80,000 or less will be 3%, well below inflation. And for seniors, $80,000 and less in household income, no increase at all. As well as for small business, no increase at all. I want a city that works for everyone everywhere, and that's why my property tax is fair, it's transparent, it's progressive, and it is honest with the voters.
Brad Bradford.
As I just said, another interest rate hike from the Bank of Canada. And while we can't control the Bank of Canada's interest rate hikes, we can control property taxes here in the City of Toronto, and I will keep those at the rate of inflation. You know what? There's a lot of challenges when it comes to City of Toronto's budget. We obviously have to work with the province and the provincial and federal government to get that done, but we also have to get more juice from the squeeze. I will be introducing mayor's mandate letters to have better performance from our top civil servants, and I will also be moving forward with open tendering to save the city $200 million a year in capital costs. Every other municipality in the province does it, and Toronto's going to do that too.
Josh Matlow.
I have a plan at votematlow.ca that shows you how we're going to raise revenue, cut waste, but also I'm going to be going into a negotiating position with Doug Ford from a place of strength. The go along to get along just has not worked. Toronto is poorer than it was before, and frankly, it's left us with maybe strong mayor powers, but a weaker city. I'm going to go in there and make sure that we actually stand up to a bully, get what we need when it comes to transit, operating costs, social housing, and more, and ensure that we have a better deal with Ontario along with the federal government.
Anna Bailão.
Libby, half of that budget is actually caused because of the low ridership on the TTC. So if we fix the TTC, we actually can help fixing the budget as well. And that is why I said we need a fair deal, not only a check at the end of the year. The Premier has been coming with a check at the end of it every year. Up to last year, he's been coming with a check. And I'm saying we need predictable, sustainable funding. We need a fair deal for the City of Toronto. And that starts with them taking the responsibility over the Gardner and the DVP. There's 2 provincial highways that 50% of the people riding on those highways are not even from Toronto. And unlike any other city around us, we are the only ones paying for those $200 million. We need that funding to go into the TTC. It's a pragmatic solution. It's a solution that I bring to the table, but it starts with the conversation that we need a fair deal for the City of Toronto. As the Premier says, there's only one taxpayer.
Olivia Chow.
It's not just with Doug Ford. There's the federal government, right? We will join 2,000 municipalities from coast to coast to coast, all saying to Mr. Trudeau that we need a funding source that grow with the economy. In terms of right here, the city, let us ask those. It's only 2% of all the house sales that are buying houses from $5, $10, $20 million, luxury homes, have them pay a little bit more. Okay? And then those that are land speculator, they should, if they leave their homes empty, have them also, with the vacancy tax, go up by 3%.
Mark Saunders.
Great, thank you. First off, as a leader, it's important to prioritize what the needs are for the public. City Hall keeps going astray by listening to the loudest voice in the room. You have my commitment that I will prioritize the money where it needs to go. Public safety is the #1 issue right now, and I hear it when I knock on doors and talk to people. It's affecting small businesses, and it's affecting everything else, including tourism. So prioritizing is a key, not raising the property taxes above the rate of inflation, unlike Ms. Chow, who time after time will not tell you how she is going to raise taxes, but she will raise taxes in a large way.
Chloe Brown.
One of the things that I would like to do around taxes is to tax unproductive lands. We have a lot of empty storefronts, empty lots around our city that could be used for housing and commercial business space. It should be criminal to have empty land in a housing crisis and a business crisis. So there's that plan, making sure that our assets are being properly monetized. We have 80 TTC stations that could be housing apartments and better businesses. We have 100 libraries that could be housing essential workers, community centers. We need to build on top of our assets to raise the purchasing power of the working class, because the working class is suffering and they're the ones that drive business.
Anthony Fury.
look, I'm going to work with Mr. Ford, with Mr. Trudeau, but more importantly, I'm going to work for the taxpayers, because we've heard a lot of pledges right now about how we can raise taxes, raise revenues. But the bottom line, the budget has ballooned in recent years. $10 billion. 10 years ago now, it's $16 billion. So nobody can tell me there's not an opportunity to do a program review, a spending review, which is what I'm going to start doing day one in the mayor's office, because quite frankly, I think it's disrespectful to taxpayers to not first look at the books before you even begin to talk about tax increases.
Okay, now to the wider debate. I will address each question to a particular candidate. Please answer concisely and let the others respond respectfully without talking over each other. I do have a buzzer. And let me move on to the next question when it's time. So here we go. There is a general sense of decline and malaise in our city. Overflowing garbage, public spaces have been taken over by drug dealing and by those suffering from addictions and homelessness. I've seen people, sorry to say, defecating in city parking lots. There is random deadly violence on the TTC and on the streets. People are wary about taking a walk and letting their kids use public transit. So realistically, how are you going to fix that? Olivia.
Right. You're talking about public disorder and people on the street. You're right, because the shelters are full. And what we're seeing now is that the people that are homeless have to be at TTC, in the subways, libraries, parks, on the street. We need to, after a decade of not building housing, this is what's happening. So we need to, as City of Toronto, come back to build housing, right? We used to build 32,000 units of housing, and then it stopped for a whole decade. We're seeing the impact of it on the street. So that's why I said, let's come back, build the housing, and also have the shelters and have rent supplements so that those homeless people have a place to go.
Josh, you want to go?
Yes. However, as we... Oh, was that like proactive?
No. Oh. My bad. Okay.
Testing.
Okay.
Computer didn't like you.
Exactly, yeah. Speaking of being proactive, a good segue. Yes, we need to increase our shelter capacity. We also need to change the environments in our shelters so that they're actually safe places that people want to go. We need more outreach. We need rental supplements, I agree. But we also need to ensure that we do things to address the root causes of a lot of the illness, whether it be addiction, mental health, people who really don't see opportunity to have housing, and opportunities, whether it be employment or if you're a youth at risk and you don't see the right path in life. So there is much more work that we need to do. Yes, we need to react and we need to respond well, but we also need to ensure that we do the hard work now and invest in our youth and our communities to ensure that they're more resilient, healthy, and safe, and therefore we prosper much more if we do it that way.
Okay, we'll get there, and I'm going to have numbers on that later on, but go ahead, on this side of the room.
You spoke about the disorder, the random crime. And most of it has been caused by City Hall. So every person here running for the mayor's office caused the situation to get to this.
You're the police?
Yep.
So first
You're the police.
No, literally, here we go. Dan. It's a nice distraction, but at the end of the day, City Hall makes a decision. City Hall funds. So you can't give the police a zero budget and not put other resources out there to make things work. The bottom line, City Hall turned a blind eye to the neighborhoods.
Yeah, but we're not going to cut our way
when it comes
to solving these challenges.
The needles and syringes in parks, in schoolyards, everywhere, not cleaning them up. And number two, small businesses are leaving. And they're talking about the decay of those particular neighborhoods. They're opening the door and seeing things like dead bodies and human defecation.
We all know the problems. We need to address the
after
solutions, Mark. It's about solutions.
So, Libby, I did a press conference this morning at Kensington Market in front of a school where the school director and some parents joined and stood beside me for it. And they were talking about the scenes of real carnage that they've experienced. People in the drug crisis swearing obscenities at 4-year-olds. You mentioned public defecation, that's going on. A needle, a place where you're supposed to put needles after they've been used, sitting in front of the school open so the kids could pull them out. I have said as mayor, we're going to say no. This is a time for choosing. And the choice is, do we look like Seattle and downtown Vancouver? I'm the only one saying no. It
Yeah, but
stops now.
how are you going to do that if you take away the resources that we need to support people who are vulnerable?
I'm not,
so
I've
that
said.
they can get well. You know,
I can answer the question for you
One of the
easily.
plan that I have is actually a mental health and wellness strategy for our city and dealing with homelessness in our city so that we can move people into supportive housing, wraparound supports, mental health, wellness, so that people can
We
be
need to
well in our
allocate
city.
the
We've
funds
got to
allocated.
invest in order for that to
Let
occur.
Brad speak. He hasn't
Nancy asked me a
spoken
question.
yet.
I want to answer. The funds allocated for the injection sites already are going to be retooled to treatment centers. And I know the province is going to be a willing partner with me to get that done.
We
and
need to
help
address
those people
I
out.
agree with you on that
challenges.
part.
And you
The
know
province
what?
needs to play a role.
I think that over the past number of years, we've gone from 6,000 shelter beds to 9,000 shelter beds. They are perpetually full. 30% of those shelter beds on any given night are filled with refugees who land here in the city of Toronto. It's time for the federal government to start paying the bill. I feel like they've taken us out for dinner and walked away from that bill. The real answer is not more shelters. The real answer is supportive housing.
They do pay, they just pay late, right? They do
We have
eventually
to
pay.
build supportive housing.
Go ahead, Chloe.
Yeah, please.
One of the biggest issues is that the majority of people that are unhoused are people with disabilities. If we cannot build accessible housing to support people with disabilities, they will stay on the street. We've lost psychiatric beds since the 1950s, and this group continues to avoid the fact that they're not building for people that are disabled. We're an ableist city. If you're disabled, you get thrown out, and this is why we're seeing people with complex learning disabilities and advanced mental health issues on the street, because you're not providing enough healthcare workers, social workers, and you're not providing the apartments for the working class who deliver these services.
And so
disagreeing
it's
with
not
that.
just.
Which is
I
why-
haven't spoken. Can I just say
please,
something?
please, go
I just
ahead.
want to say you can see how complex an issue this is, and we need the federal and provincial government at the table. There's
It's
no question
not
about
complex.
it.
It's a willingness to build for people with disabilities.
We, as a city, we need to double down on the efforts to create the supportive
But
housing.
we can't
need
do more
to
of the
double
same.
down. We need to.
More of the
Can I?
same
Can I
is
speak? I
not-
didn't interrupt
is
you.
not
Mitzi.
gonna help.
Mitzi,
More
I
of
didn't
the same
interrupt her.
is not gonna help.
We need to have the mobile mental health clinics to do the outreach, to bring the people inside the supportive.
Which we do have. I started that in Scarborough. They go to all the high needs buildings
But
to
again-
provide services
We need
on
those
site.
supports. We don't
With
have them
all-
out there in our subway stations, in our parks, in our streets to make sure that we're bringing those people. We're offering the treatment. We're offering the supports. We have
unfortunately-
them in the supportive
Last
housing.
30 seconds.
That's what we
Pretty clear
need.
to see
I am
what we've been
talking
doing
about-
is not working.
I am
So
talking
we
about-
need to do
Okay,
more of
stop
mobile
talking
crisis
over each
response
other,
teams.
please.
We need to do more supportive housing. You know, in my community, I built 59 supportive housing units for seniors, and that's given them the dignity of a roof over their head, wraparound support so they can be successful in the community. But that's just the starting point. We
I think
have to
one-
do
Okay.
more of that.
Last
across
10
the city.
seconds. We're moving on to the next.
My plan speaks to the root cause too, but the question is about right now. Housing's not going to be built for years, and right now it's the disorder and the random crime that is the issue. And there has to be a multitude of solutions to do it. I have those solutions. Time after
Name
time,
them.
City Hall has spent money elsewhere dealing with the loudest voice in the room. I will change that and make sure the money is put where it needs to go, and that is to keep our communities safe.
Okay, wait. We're moving along. CARP's polling shows that the city's seniors are not wrapped up in their own specific problems. They share the same concerns as the rest of us. In order of importance, CARP members are worried about TTC service and infrastructure, housing shortages, budget and taxes, homelessness and drug addiction, policing and crime management, and a Toronto seniors strategy. And now I'd like to turn things over to Anthony Quinn, CARP's Chief Community Officer, for his round.
Thank you very much, Libby. I am here representing 40,000 voting CARP members in Toronto, and I was delighted to hear from a few candidates that seniors were part of your priority for the city. But I wanted to talk first about the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation, celebrating its first anniversary June 1st. But the CEO, Tom Hunter, has said that after a year of a listening tour, they're not at the solution stage yet. What can you do as mayor to get the action from the bureaucrats to ensure that there are no more listening tours, but there's action taking place?
Great
Libby, I'll let you
question.
pick the first speaker,
Great
please.
question.
Okay, who wants to take that? Oh, everyone. Okay, yes, Olivia.
Yeah, we used to build housing through TCXA, and yeah, we need to come back to building housing, but on top of it, we need to let seniors able to stay at their own homes. So wraparound service, which is homemaker services, which we have, we need to expand it, and then the PSWs, which is personal
I'm
support
gonna answer the
workers,
question.
Meals on Wheels.
If I may,
and-
Just let her finish the sentence.
Wait. Yeah, and that kind of service allowed seniors, with the help of some of the nonprofit organizations, provide the services right at their home, so they don't have to go to long-term care homes, right? When they have to go to long-term care homes, because the City of Toronto runs 10 of it, let us have more so that there is seamless transition.
I'm going to answer
That
the
is
question.
what the seniors can do.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm going to answer your question, and it was about accountability. We heard about the listening tour of over a year, and we're not delivering results. When I am mayor, I'm going to issue mayor's mandate letters, publicly accountable, transparent documents that outline the key deliverables for staffs, the heads of our different divisions and agencies, and we're going to hold them to account. I used to work at City Hall in the Chief Planner's office, and I can tell you there was a lack of accountability, divisional silos, and this pervasive attitude that whatever doesn't get done today will get done tomorrow.
So you were part of the problem
The City
in the
of
Planner's
Toronto
office?
cannot wait. The City of Toronto cannot wait. Our seniors cannot wait any longer, and that is why we need better transparency and accountability from our civil servants. In your job, at your workplace, you are held to account. You're held to account for budgets, for timelines, and for deliverables, and we need a culture change at City Hall to stand that up and make sure that we are actually delivering services for people, including our seniors, to make sure that this is a livable city for everybody.
Now, I wasn't going to jump in here, but I have a number on this, on the Toronto Housing Authority. So a year ago, a CEO was hired for $160,000, and he welcomed 301 staffers who have been on full salary. So this is why, Anthony...
Only 300 seniors found new housing in that same year.
Well, exactly. So why is the money, as you said, stuck in the bureaucracy?
I just want to say that, I visited a hotel at Kennedy and 401. 50% of the people, of the 450 people there, are seniors who are unhoused. So it's not a question of the need. It's a question of this group making sure that we find appropriate seniors housing to make sure people aren't stuck in our shelter system, which also costs as well. It's like a double and triple.
I'm just saying there's tons of money. Where's it going?
This is about... I'd like to contribute, if I may. So, as you know, I initiated the Toronto Senior Strategy. It's an issue that I care deeply about, as I'm sure all of you do too. And it's not one or the other. It really is all of the things that we've been discussing. So first of all, when it comes to accountability, when it comes to community housing, yes, we need to hold them to account to deliver and make sure that they have adequate investments to actually keep units in good repair and increase capacity. We also need to make sure that we improve long-term care so that they're not like warehouses, but they're emotion-focused places that people want to live in and get the support that they need. Yeah. May I please, just one more thing. People want to age in place. Yep. So we also need to plan communities so that it's realistic to be able to do that, so people can live in their homes as long as they choose to, but they need, whether it be health services, grocery stores.
But Libby, and that's why one of my first policies that I launched in this campaign was actually a program to bring healthcare and wellness to the seniors. We had a very, very, very good vaccination program with hundreds of ambassadors out there. I am actually transferring that to have that being brought to the doorstep of seniors, so that then we can have mobile clinics with public health and with paramedics.
Anna's right.
We need to prevent it. We need to support on our seniors at their doorstep. We need to keep them at home. That worked.
And I'm glad that you're having this town hall, because it's very clear. Everyone is making this sound like this is a new issue. City Hall has recognized this issue for a long time. It wasn't until a pandemic when things got exposed, and again, the window dressing came on. We have to make sure that the investments are there long before, where we allocate the funds, especially towards our seniors. When we see the rate of seniors increasing 6 times faster than any other demographic, so the funding has to be put there. Everybody here made these decisions.
You have no funding plan, Mark.
You've never prioritized.
Well, show us your funding plan. Show us a piece of paper.
Leadership.
Show us anything. Mark, show us something that demonstrates
well, but then show us what you're cutting.
You actually have a plan.
Bike lanes.
You said you're going to cut
have
IT
to.
services,
You
and that's
have
all
to.
you've said you do.
I did not say that.
Can we
Yes, you
cut
did.
this
Yeah.
wobbly?
So
What I said-
show us what your funding plan is.
What I said was
Go for it.
reducing
I think we should
Okay.
close. Go for
Okay.
it.
I think Sean's
Yeah,
right.
because there's
I'd love
no
to know what your
solutions
plan is.
happening right here.
Okay.
Okay, this buzzer is faulty. Okay. Yeah, it's your segment. I'm sorry.
You said 30,000 seniors on the waiting list. There's 35,000. I checked the numbers this morning.
gone up.
It's gone up. And we'll move next to long-term care, which Josh had mentioned.
Yes.
2,400 seniors in Toronto in 10 buildings, relatively small, but Toronto has come up with an industry-leading program called Care TO, which is budgeted to pay for emotion-centered care in Toronto's long-term care home. If Toronto can implement that across the board, that will change long-term care in Canada. So will you commit as the mayor to continue funding that program and expanding it? By the year 2041, there will be triple the amount of seniors over age 75. So I'd like to ask Mr. Saunders first, will you commit to that?
Absolutely. Government of the day has neglected it and caused this and made this more of an exponential problem. And it speaks to prioritizing, Josh.
Mark,
it's
you
not
just
about
heard
just
that we
getting more
created
money.
a program that is leading.
Yeah.
No,
I also want to say,
Mark, I literally,
so not true.
Mark,
that's why they've
I
identified
moved the
it as a
motion on
problem.
this.
Yeah, but I
Josh,
wanna
with all
say-
due respect, that's why they've identified it as a problem. And are you going to commit?
But the problem, Mark, is going to get
caused the
worse.
problem.
Let me
Mark,
tell you why it's going to
that's
get
not
worse for long-term care in Toronto, because Premier Ford has a compliance of long-term care homes to move to a different standard, and those owners are selling those homes.
No, let-
And so we are
First
going to, we
reverse
are
primary
actually, we
issue
are
is
at risk.
shortage.
We are at risk of losing. I just want to finish. This is a really important point. This is an important point.
Primary issue is shortage.
This is really
Anthony,
important
this is your.
this is going to create
We're not
even
talking about
more.
CareTO, and I
Maybe
think
why don't you
Anthony, it's about long-term care beds in the city.
Name your
Anthony.
name.
So
Thank you.
we'll ask Chloe, and Chloe, please face the camera. Don't face me. And
just worried.
no, just so you know that how will you commit to taking care of Toronto's long-term care issue as we expand the number of seniors in the next 20 years?
We need to end age discriminatory housing. We shouldn't have long-term care houses to just warehouse our seniors. We need a campus of care approach. There's currently one in Parkdale that's being run by the University Healthcare Network. They bought a total of, I believe, 40 to 50 properties, and they're working with the University Healthcare Network to house workers that will deliver the care to seniors, and they're living together. We should stop funding long-term care, because at the end of the day, our seniors should be able to live with our young people. Our seniors can provide childcare. It's a matter of stacking healthcare, elder care, childcare all in one residential building, so people are living where the services are, and that the nurses are providing home and community care within proximity to neighborhoods.
Can tell you that home and community.
Yes, we need home care so people can stay longer. But then I looked at my dad. He had dementia. He started wandering. He can't live at home anymore. He has to go to long-term care.
Parkdale's creating dementia
but hang on, so I
villages.
said, wait, he can open the door and then wander, and police end up picking him up. But let's listen. What we can do is to say to the province, because people are selling those private homes.
Yeah, thank you, Olivia, because I want to finish my point on that.
Let us ask the province to give us the first right of refusal for the city of Toronto, and then we can then pick up those homes with partners with the provincial government.
Okay,
and then
so I have an action.
Libby, we can.
Anthony.
Josh had that
Anthony.
file for the last decade.
Yes.
And we're still in trouble. So, Josh, please defend your record on this.
So, no, I appreciate that. So, just to be clear, it wasn't so much my file, but I initiated the motion at council to create CareTO. The file was very competent and wonderful staff who've been working on this. And there are funding reasons why a lot of things haven't happened. But the reality is that we are now piloting at Lakeshore Lodge an emotion-focused care approach, which takes us away from the warehouse approach and really creates an environment that's supportive of the PSWs and workers and supportive of the residents. I'm going to be expanding that throughout the city. This is going to be a priority for the City of Toronto. And ultimately, some of the things that I disagree with not funding long-term care at all. I think that's the wrong approach. But I do agree with the campus of care approach. And ultimately, if people have options to live at home for as long as they choose to, or like my father, who also, he has Alzheimer's, and he does need the care of long-term care to be able to support him.
You know what?
But the city can take even a different role as well. I've worked with different communities, including my own community, with nonprofits to provide city land. I also was able to not charge development charges because we are losing long-term care beds in the city of Toronto. And
because there's no action here on the part of the existing council to protect those long-term care homes. I have raised that at this table. I want to offer the solution
and bring
that
it to the
I've
table.
already put forward.
Mitzi, she was right.
Libby, can I say one thing? I think this speaks to the fact that the fact we're not able to provide for our seniors and so many other priorities is that we've gotten ahead of ourselves in terms of spending on all these pet projects and frills that are not what residents
You call
and
seniors pet projects, Anthony?
It's just that
I just said the opposite. I said we can't invest in seniors because throughout your tenure at City Hall, you created so many pet projects.
We're talking about long-term.
And I said we're going to do a non-core service hiring freeze. We're going to do the program review, the spending review, to bring back to basics, to fix the potholes, to get the transit going, to respect our seniors. That's invest and reallocate on priorities. That's what we got to do here. We got to respect taxpayers and seniors.
So, Anthony, maybe I would like to get you on record then. Will you commit to extending the long-term, the CareTO program in Toronto as budgeted last year? There's a hole for funding. We're going to have to find the money. Will you commit to long-term care for seniors in Toronto?
And I'm going to be able to commit to doing it by porting out all of these frill projects and putting them to priorities like seniors, like fixing the potholes, like getting transit moving again. We got to go back to basics, folks. Everyone's saying things are not working in this city. We got all the frills. We're paying many millions to clear the bike lanes in January and February when no one's using them, and yet we don't have the basics to be able to care for people like our seniors. So yes, I can make that commitment, manage the budget to make it happen. That's my promise to everyone.
I think out of everything, what I like the most in true political form, 5 minutes ago, Josh put his hand up saying, I own the file, and as soon as it was a problem, I didn't own the file.
That's what you do as the chief of police as well. And one time you're saying, I'm the chief of police, I'm the only one that can do public policy. And then you say, no, that's not me.
I would put my record against yours on any given day.
I have not been mayor the last few years.
We're moving on to my last question.
All of the insiders are deflected.
And I'm going to start this one for Brad as the town city planner in your background. Age-friendly city, something Toronto has committed to over the last decade. That means the city is accessible to anyone from any age, but the costs associated with that continue to be pulled out of the city budget. How will you commit to making sure that Toronto is accessible for Canadians as they age?
Well, accessibility is such an important issue, and as you've rightly pointed out, as the demographics shift in this city, we need to make sure that we are prioritizing that. The issues that were identified off the top, I think Libby walked us through, transit, housing, getting around our city, all of these things relate to a more accessible city and how we build that infrastructure to support it. Look, we've had a good conversation about long-term care homes. We need more housing options for our seniors so that they can age in place, so that they can stay in their homes longer, and that they have options to downsize too. That is really important, and that's why we moved forward with multiplex here in the city of Toronto. Generational housing, so that families can live, seniors can live with their children. There's options for childcare, all of the things that we're doing with garden suites, laneway suites, multiplex. This is how we help alleviate the pressure on long-term care. This is how we make sure that there are more options for people when they need it, and we keep people in their homes longer.
So that's important.
Can I just add
quick? When I did the laneway housing, when we were at
supportive comment,
Libby, when I did the laneway housing.
Can I listen to my producer? We're taking a quick break. We'll be right back on the other side.
Well, we've been watching live coverage of a mayoral debate happening this afternoon in Liberty Village.